Good afternoon and welcome to McLeod Money Monday. My name is Stephen McLeod and this is the place where you're going to learn how to destroy debt, secure your savings, give generously, and live luxuriously. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Heather McLeod.
Hi.
And I want y'all to think about the moment that you got your first credit card. I can remember that moment because it was when I first started teaching, so I wasn't making a lot of money. I also had just recently got married, and not to Heather, but it wasn't a good situation. And I just remember just financial stress because when I got my first job teaching, some of you might, if you're teaching, you might relate to this situation, but there was this delay in me starting in August and actually get my paycheck. It was like the end of September or something like that. I felt like I had gone like 2 months for actually getting paid. But at that time, I wasn't doing a budget. I wasn't really planning well with my money. I was just doing a lot of dumb choices, okay? So eventually, money was getting stressed, newly married person and trying to figure out, wait a minute, we need some money. The stuff that we get from our wedding and things like that only lasts so long. And I was like, what did we do? Well, seemed like getting a credit card was the solution, the kind of the magic wand or something that was gonna make all the financial decisions go away. So I remember getting my Bank of America credit card, and I think it was like year 2011, and all excited about that, that all the money stress go away because now we can just swipe the card and buy anything that we want. But fast forward a few years from that, I got car debt, bought a brand new car. Kind of already talked about the stupidity of that situation, and was going back to school, so I was getting student loan debt, and just not really doing a budget, not managing my money. And fast forward to a few years, where me and my wife were separated. Ex-wife at that time were separated, and I just remember being at home and getting this letter in the mail, and this letter in the mail was from the student loan people who was like, hey, congratulations, you've just got your master's degree, so how about you pay us back all that money that you borrowed from us? And I remember looking at that and seeing like, this is how much money that you took out, and this is what your monthly payment's going to be now. And I remember looking at that and adding up kind of my situation, the rent that I had, my car payment, just bills and stuff like that, and just coming to the realization that I can't afford all this. Like, I literally don't have enough money to pay. And as a man, that was a big pride thing, like just knowing that I can't afford to pay this stuff. And yes, I know that there's all these situations with people with certain income that you can get lower payments. I know there's all these programs like, hardship and stuff like that. But for me, it really was a shot to my pride. Like, I just did not like knowing that I could not afford this. That I borrowed this money, I should be able to pay it back, and it just was not happening. So that was a crazy feeling. And it was a feeling that I was like, I never want to be in this situation again. That's kind of what spurred me into figuring out how to get out of debt, and is what led me to Dave Ramsey and stuff like that. And I started listening to his stuff, and he's all about, this is what you need to do. You need to just start paying off your debt, get crazy with it. And one of those things that he said do was cut up the credit cards. This is one of the reasons why you're in the mess that you're in. So I did that. I took my Bank of America credit card and I just snipped that up into thousands of little pieces. I mean, seriously. I cut it up because I was mad. Like, this was an emotional thing for me. Like, I hated that feeling of just my money situation being out of control. So I got really mad at that. I just cut up my credit cards. Like, I ain't doing this no more. Started working hard to get it all paid off. But I say all that to say that, I went from getting this credit card that, I just thought was going to be a quick, easy fix, just I can buy stuff and not have to worry about having the money. And it got me into this situation to where I went from one extreme to the other. Now I'm just hating this card. I cut up and just started using a debit card. And to be honest with you, I didn't really miss my credit card at all. I mean, I got kind of hardcore with Heather, found me, I was still getting out of debt, and
I found you like a lost puppy.
Yes. And so I was still kind of, hardcore intense with it, and she stuck with me, which is amazing. But yeah, I was pretty I did not care about getting a credit card ever again. I had my debit card. That solved the problem. Why did I even need a credit card? It just caused me problems at the time. My debit card was really all I needed. But Heather, after we started dating, just talking to her about the feelings, and she had different feelings and different views with her credit card situation. But I think I'm just going to let her take a moment and kind of share her point of view with it.
Yeah, I remember getting my first credit card, and I was terrified because I knew how much trouble you could get in with credit cards. And I think that it was after I had graduated college and had my first job, and so I decided to just start using it for gas. I used debit card for everything else. I just put gas on the credit card for the first couple months. And then I got brave enough to put groceries on the credit card too, and just kind of worked my way up little by little until I was using that. And my personality is actually that I'm a saver. So it was something that I didn't have a budget at all, but I didn't ever struggle with overspending on the credit card because that just wasn't my personality. It wasn't how I was raised. My parents had credit cards, and I remember getting those cashback bonus bucks, and that's really the reason I had a credit card. For me was that you could get dollar for dollar on your cashback bonus bucks on Amazon, and I would save it up all year, and then that was Christmas for everyone. So, I started out terrified of the credit card and ended up, really enjoying those cashback bucks that I had. And so then when, I met Steven, and I knew he was really hardcore into paying off his debts, which I respected so much, and thought that was so amazing of him, and thought that, okay, if we get married, he's setting us up for financial success. And I really liked that about him, and he did. So yay. But that was definitely something that we had repeated discussions about before we got married, and even after we got married, because to me it was okay, but we're both going to use it and pay it off. So why are you saying no to free money with these cashback bonus bucks? And I know that's not how either of us are going to get rich. Yeah. But don't say no to free money. So we just had lots and lots of discussions.
She was very patient with me
about it. And it's one of those things that I think that even if we never got a credit card, it wouldn't have been wrong at all, because there have been things in our relationship that when I looked at Steven's hatred of credit cards, to me it's okay, the credit card wasn't the problem, your behavior was the problem. But it's just sometimes we just have this tangible thing that's this is the manifestation of everything that went wrong. Yes. And I think that's what the credit card was for him, and that's valid. There are things that we don't do because of something similar for me, that it's okay, this is illogical, but I can't handle it. And so he's very respectful of the way I feel about things. And so I was going to be respectful of the way he felt about things. And just, I think my strategy was to let him be the one to be okay, I think maybe we could get a credit card. But these are the stipulations and these are the rules around the credit card. Yes. Which, looking back on that discussion, is why we wanted to share some of these things with you guys.
That's right. Yeah, because, she was very patient with me about that situation, because, I was like, no, we don't need a credit card. I hate this thing. But after a while, it was kind of getting over a bad breakup or something like that. Eventually, you just start to kind of separate yourself from the emotion a little bit. Not to say that you forget, how to, go through it properly again. Because like she said, it's a behavior thing. So I learned what those mistakes were. Why did I get in that situation? Why did I get to that? I started learning more about my money problems and how to fix that. But still, like with the credit card, there was that emotional aspect of it that, had to kind of get that distance. And after that, I can kind of think about it more like, okay, if we do get a credit card, then what is the reason behind it? What benefit does it actually serve? And really, the main thing that we came up with was, okay, they give you cash back. And it's not a whole lot, 1%, 2%, sometimes, and Discovery does like 5% on certain categories. But at the end of the day, it's not like a whole lot. But hey, I mean, it is, some money that you get back, and you're going to pay that same amount anyway, so might as well get that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, just as long as you don't fool yourself into thinking that, oh, I'm getting a credit card, I'm getting the 1%, 2% cash back, but yet you're carrying the balance every month. I mean, that's what I was doing. I had a balance. So those bonuses, whatever, it was of no use to me. It just caused stress. I was making payments, interest payments on that too. So I wasn't getting any cash back bonus at the time. So don't fool yourself into thinking, hey, this is a good idea, and you're not going to do it right. Other reasons why people get the credit card is, to build credit and things like that. And if you're going to buy a house in the future, which you can still do it in other ways without getting a credit card. So that's not necessarily the only reason you should get one. There's other reasons. People use it for emergencies and things like that. But if you're using your credit card for an emergency situation, I mean, you better be prepared to be in debt your entire life, because emergencies happen all the time. Absolutely. Not a good plan. Don't use your credit card as an emergency fund. Not going to happen. But here's what I do want to give you, because we did talk about for ourselves, like what was the purpose of getting a credit card? And I started thinking about this. If anyone out there is thinking, okay, about getting a credit card, or maybe, most likely you already have one, I do want to give you some conditions that I think should be in place. You need to have these conditions in place if you ever want to have the credit card and enjoy the cashback benefits without having all the cons that happen with it. And I know there's probably a lot of you out there that might be in a situation where, I don't know, you could be like me at some point where you get hardcore about the credit card, like, no, there's no situation to have a credit card. You know what? If that's your situation, that's fine. You can live perfectly fine with just a debit card. But, if you want to take advantage of these cashback bonuses, then this is what I think needs to take place.
And before we get into the checklist that you should go through before you get a credit card, and maybe this means you need to take a break from credit card, like, just period of separation. But before we get into that discussion, there's some real quick no-nevers. If you're in recovery, then no. You do not need to have a credit card probably ever. And that's recovery from a lot of things. If you have a shopping addiction, then this is just a big fat no for you. If you're in recovery from drugs and alcohol addiction, then this is also just, you don't need another risky thing in your life. So no, stick with a debit card. Also probably don't have cash, but anyways, and even if that recovery is something that's not addiction based, if you're recovering from broken trust in a relationship, then this might be a time that you need to say, okay, until we get this relationship figured out, we don't need to add any more potential fuel to the fire. So we're just going to quit the credit card and come back to this later. And I feel like that's kind of, in some ways, our story. Like, Stephen had trust issues with the credit card. And even though that wasn't, it didn't originate with me, it was valid. And in order to build trust in our relationship, this relationship and building trust there is more important to you, at least your relationship should be more important to you, than a measly 1 or 2% cash back. So let's please make sure that you're having your priorities in the right place. Focus on your recovery, whether that's from some sort of addictive behavior or recovery from broken trust in a relationship.
Very good. So here's the first condition, besides this little, disclaimer right there, is you need to be doing a budget, okay? Before, I think you should think about getting a credit card, you have to be doing the budget for at least a year. Because doing that budget is going to, first of all, get you to the habit of making sure your bills and stuff, you're paying that with cash that you actually have, okay? That, you're watching your money. You know what the kind of flow, what the cash flow is. If you're not doing the budget, credit card people some people think just putting stuff on the credit card and then making like the payment at the end of the month, that's like, oh yeah, I'm paying my bills and stuff like that. No, it's going to set yourself up for disaster. Make sure you're doing the budget. You probably hear this in almost every episode. And the reason why you hear it in almost every episode is because it's extremely important. Do yourself a written budget for at least a year.
And written can be like on the app on the phone, not like literally sitting down like you're an accountant from the 1800s. That's
right. What we're doing here is we're building that discipline muscle. If you're going to get in trouble with the credit card and go into debt, it's, that behavior, that discipline thing. That's what my problem was. Okay, but when I started getting on the plan and starting actually looking at what's happening with my money, did a budget, then it was the easier for me to, I have the money. I don't have to go rely on the credit card, because I don't have money coming in like that first 2 months after getting the job. I had a better plan in place. So make sure you're doing the budget. That's the first thing. Secondly, you need to make sure that you are debt free, except for your mortgage. So if you currently have debt, car payments, student loans, or credit card debt, then you need to get those paid off, okay? Because by getting those debts paid off, you're making a declaration that, yes, I don't like debt. I want to get rid of debt. And when you make that declaration of like, okay, I want to be debt free, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to, use the credit card and pay that off, throughout the month, okay, or at the end of the month. But if you haven't paid off your debts, if you still have your car payment, stuff like that, there's still that part of you that's thinking, okay, that's fine. And if you have that mentality, then when you get the credit card, it's a lot easier for you to get into that, start holding the balance with your credit card. So make sure that you're getting debt free. Thirdly, make sure that you have an emergency fund. And I say at least 3 to 6 months of expenses. Now, if you're trying to get out of debt, I would also encourage that you do a little starter emergency fund, like try to get $1,000 saved first and then start paying off your debts, because here's the deal. We talked about earlier how some people use the credit cards for emergencies, and we don't want you to be getting into that situation where it's like, oh, I had to use a credit card because emergency happened. I didn't really want to use a credit card, but emergency happened, so I had no other choice. No. When you get the $1,000 saved before getting out of debt, that will help protect you from going further into debt. And then, after you've got your debts paid off, get 3 to 6 months of emergencies. The whole purpose of that is making sure you've got cash to cover emergencies so that you will never rely on your credit card, or at least lower the probability very, 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 very low, like that you'll use that credit card ever for emergencies.
Because think about what you're really saying. Are you really saying that, oh, what's your emergency plan? Debt?
Not good.
You wouldn't actually say those words, but when you say that your credit card's your emergency plan, it's what you mean.
I don't like it. Yeah, because you're going to be making payments on that. And Heather said something interesting earlier when we were talking about this, like don't make your emergency worse by now having to pay interest on it. Okay.
That's kind of good.
I like that. Let's see. All right, here's the next thing. This kind of goes along with doing the budget, but practice using the debit card for a year before using the credit card. The debit card is almost exactly identical to the credit card, except that you cannot go into debt. You actually have to use money that's in your bank account. So if you practice using the debit card for a year versus the credit card, you're already kind of getting the habit of, kind of the flow of things. And the only thing you have to change when you get the credit card is really just making sure you pay off that balance. Okay, and you can, if you're doing the budget, then you're setting yourself up for success on actually paying off that balance and actually remembering to do that.
Yeah.
So those are the conditions that I have. Those all need to be in place before you get a credit card, because it's going to make sure that you don't go into debt, and that, if it's the cashback bonuses that you want, that you actually get those without having to pay the interest.
Absolutely.
The last thing that we're going to talk about is if you've met all these conditions, then here's a few quick tips when you get your credit card that's also going to help you kind of stay successful with it and not be in a problem with it. Is set up alerts on your phone. A lot of these credit card companies, you can download the apps on your phone and you can set like limits where it says you get alert if a transaction of more than whatever amount that you set. I recommend setting it at 0. That's what we have ours set at. So what that means is literally any transaction that takes place pops up on the phone. I mean, that's for security purposes to make sure no one else is using your thing, get alert. But also, it's just good to see like that this was a transaction that took place. I mean, when you're swiping the card, sometimes you're not feeling the physical transaction. And when you look at that, you're like, oh, I just spent money, and you have that there. And also, we kind of share the alerts too, so it kind of helps keep us accountable where, if she spends something, not that this isn't a trust thing where, like, oh, I want you to have this because I don't trust you to use the card or something like that, but it's just this transparency that we have, I guess, where we just want each other to be aware of, like, this is what I'm spending money on. And of course, if we're doing a big purchase, we talk to each other. But I think that kind of helps prevent like going too far into credit card debt when we're both like fully aware of just how, it's being used.
And to be honest with you, I was the one who was hesitant about getting the alerts on my phone because do I really need to see the alert every time I buy money? I wish. Every time I spend money at the grocery store, I mean, I'm the one who spent it. I know it's there. So I just thought it would be an aggravation. But if you're the person in the relationship who's like, ugh, about the alerts, go for it. Let your partner download the app on your phone and get you set up for the alerts. Because for one thing, it's really nice. If he's on his way home and he stops for gas, I know how far away he is, it's just kind of like a, hey, I left work thing. But seriously, it actually makes budgeting easier when you can just not worry about the receipt and just look back and be like, oh, I got an alert that says I spent $59.77 at the grocery store. Cool. So do the alerts, even if you're the spouse who doesn't want to deal with all that. Do it. It's good for you. Also, when you're making purchases on your credit card, make sure that you check your budget, not your credit limit.
Yes.
These are two very different things. For one thing, when you make a purchase on a credit card, it is a few days until that actually goes all the way through. So there might be things that you've bought, but it hasn't been fully reflected in your credit card statement thing. But it's not your credit card limit is not your budget. I don't even know that we know what ours is because we check the budget and not the credit card limit thing. And please, as you go into this, keep your why in mind. Even if you're very disciplined with a credit card, there will be times that you're going to be tempted to get something now. And if your reason for having a credit card is because you don't want to wait until you have the money, you'd rather pay more and pay interest to have that thing now, at least be honest with yourself about that being your why. If your why is to treat it like cash and just get those cashback bonus bucks, then keep that in your mind. If there's temptations, be like, no, the purpose of this is cash back. The purpose of it is not impulsive buying. So if you can keep that why in your mind, I think that it helps with a lot of the other self-discipline issues that might come from having a credit card.
That's good. All right, to close out, guys, here's what I want to leave you with. Nobody ever got rich off of the credit card. Okay, nobody built wealth with the credit card. Okay, it's not going to happen. So at the end of the day, you decide, do you want to worry about this thing? Our culture tells us that you practically have to have a credit card to survive. That's not necessarily true. So don't be spending your whole time, juggling credit card, which one does have the lower rates, which one gets. If you're spending most of your time thinking about that, you're doing it wrong. Most of your time should be thinking about other more important things. Okay, but, if you're thinking about getting a credit card, then these are the conditions that absolutely have to be in place to kind of minimize any type of damage that could happen. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for joining us with this episode of McLeod Money Monday. If you've enjoyed this, please like and share it, and we hope you will join us again on the next episode.
Bye, y'all.